And we're back for another week of 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast. It's nice to be back with you. It's nice to be back with you live. Hello, everybody there in the comments. Got the bearded metal chef there. Hey, brother, how's it going? It's good to see you there. Always good to see you. Poopies, hello. Whoop, whoop to you too. Ah, yeah. So it's good to be back with you for another week. I decided to do a live every couple weeks now because, they're fun. There's a lot of poop. We are going to talk about poop. Oh, that metal guy's. Hi, Steven. How's it going? Steve's here. It's good to see you. But I've been having good times doing lives with you guys, so why not? And so I was sitting in the bath this morning, as I do before I have a live, and I was thinking about emo. This is really strange because a friend of mine the other day, we've been talking back and forth, and they had asked me if you like emo, Tanny, do you listen to emo? I had to like really kind of think about it. And then I really thought about it like hard. I'm like, emo kind of came about big time when I was just leaving the kitty because I said I was going to talk about high school here. So emo was big. And I got to remember, I kind of missed the boat that was emo, which is because I started, hi, Rowan, how's it going? All the way from, you are awake on another side of the world right now. And I mean, you probably just getting up. But emo for me was one of those things that I kind of totally bypassed and totally missed because of, well, honestly, the 60s. Not that because I would participated in the 60s or anything that happened in the 60s. Steve obviously loved him some emo. What kind of bands did you like? See, I know who the bands are. My friends were in emo bands. I missed the boat because of the 60s. I got into these 60s documentaries and smoking lots of pot at that time when I got out of Kitty. Rowan's wearing his kitty shirt with me on it. Oh, the kitty shirt. Oh, I know where you got that from. You got that from Twisted Teas. Sometimes I wear that shirt with my face on it too. Hi from England, Scott. Sometimes I wear a kitty shirt with my face on it too, but then sometimes my kids like make fun of me. They're just like, "Mom, you're wearing a shirt with your face on it." So I'm just like, "Yeah, that is kind of embarrassing." So how I miss emo was because of pot and because of the 60s and because of the Grateful Dead and because of this girl I hung out with at in high school. She was like a just like one of those hippies, like almost like a neo hippie, like a new hippie. So she wore like a rainbow hat and everything was like from the Goodwill or from Lehman House, which we had here in London. And we go to hippie concerts together and we do hippie things together. And we go to this bar called the Rose and Crown. And I think now it's maybe Alex P. Keaton. I don't know what it is downtown now. In our city, I don't go to bars. I don't fucking know. But we go there and we listen to our friends' bands play the bongos and play acoustic guitar. And, we get drunk because we'd be able to drink beer there underage because they didn't give a shit. Send the check, Coca Cola. Send the check. But we drink beers there underage. She'd drive home because she'd get her dad's car and drive my drunk ass home. Or we go to this place called Prince Albert's Diner afterwards. And we'd be in there till like 2 o'clock in the morning eating hamburgers at the time. Because we all ate meat at the time because we were all young. But we were reading, good Carlos Castaneda books and like beat literature in high school. So that is how I missed the boat on emo because of weed and because of going to bars with hippies and becoming kind of a hippie myself. Okay, so many emo bands. Here we got My Chemical Romance, Taking Back Sunday, Good Charlotte, Sum 41, The Used, Rufio, so many more. Well, Steve's got like the knowledge of the emo bands, and like some of my like so a lot of my friends do have a knowledge of a lot of emo bands. Like there were a lot of emo bands in London. We had like the Black Donnellys, we had the Black Mariah, we had Cancer Bats, like lots of really good bands. Looks like Rowan started reading a book by Carlos Castaneda too. There are so many good books by Carlos Castaneda. I got really enthralled in Carlos Castaneda and all like the journeys and him being kind of like with the medicine men and kind of stuff like that. It's a very immersive read. It's the kind of book that you kind of have to read twice because you're just like, did that actually fucking happen in real life? And like speaking of things that you want to question that if they actually happened in real life is I said that I would be talking about this week and I'm going to talk about it. So if you haven't seen the Squid Game yet, come back later. or just spoil it for yourself with whatever you want. But oh my gosh, Rob and I started watching that Squid Game. It said it was Netflix biggest show ever, and it was the history biggest show, sorry, of the history of the in the history of the world. So not just Netflix. So I'm like, okay, I got to get in on this. So it's a Korean show, and the subtitles are actually like fairly amazing as far as like the dubbing goes and the overdubbing goes. It's really, really good. The subtitles don't really mash up too well with the actual overdubbing. And it's actually kind of like sometimes they'll come across and say something really funny or silly, which is really like entertaining for me. Ah, I'm going to start watching the first episode just before this. I'm not gonna talk about it very, like, episode-wise, but I'm just gonna say, like, the show is just oh, you just sent me some pictures. I don't have my phone with me. What kind of pictures you got? Oh, and Beer Metal Chef, they thought it was real? Well, like, if this show was real, oh my god, you'd be screwed. I would not wanna be in this situation that these people are in. I mean, basically I mean, Rowan's seen the first episode now, so, like, I mean, I can obviously say that people are I mean, they're in an impossible situation. They got either, no money, no hope, no nothing, and all of a sudden they're given this, like, little glimmer of light, little hope, little bit of opportunity to make some money, 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 and they get a little card, and it has some little shapes on it, like the little shapes that were on the advertisement for this episode. They got some triangles, you got some little circles. Oh, emo pictures or where is it Steven says that he sent Steve says he sent emo pictures. Amazing. Back to the emo days. Like I just never was emo. I guess for me, the most emo for me that things got were like when Green Day started like wearing more like guy liner for me. Like emo for me was always like Green Day. There's some girl bands that I like that I considered emo at the time, or maybe like screamo or whatever you want to call it. But I like to me the biggest Green Day because Steve thought the shapes on Squid Game were for PlayStation. They need an X though, like they actually need an X. That'd be awesome, some kind of triggers. But holy shit, speaking of triggers, like trigger warning, if you can't handle shooting or graphic violence, you can't watch Squid Game, like, you can't. I recommended it to my mom. I called her on the phone and I'm like, "Mom, the biggest show is on Netflix, you gotta check this out," because she'll listen to my podcast or whatever, she'll watch it, and she's like, "Oh, I watched your podcast, you should swear, like, less." And bearded metal chef. Are you guys all sharing the same beard? Like, what the fuck's going on? Oh, before watching it. 30 Seconds to Mars, Rock to Road. Jared Leto is good. He is really good. He's very versatile as an actor. I've not seen 30 Seconds to Mars yet, but he is super versatile as an actor. I remember him from back from like My So-Called Life, and that is like was my like introduction to Jared Leto. That's like being very young. I was more of a So-Called Life girl. I was more of like a Dawson's Creek kind of girl. Like Rob has one friend who is likes Dawson's Creek as much as I do. It is a male friend. And goddamn, I could talk to this motherfucker about Dawson's Creek forever because Dawson's Creek is so good. Oh, Jared Leto's band is amazing. Like seriously, Steve, you have a good point there. His band's like they're tight. They're really, really, really good. You better tell me their name because I don't know off the top of my head. Well, they were 30 Seconds to Mars. I'm crazy. Dawson is your dude. Dawson Leary, like he was just everyone's favorite. Oh, Rowan said that he watched Dawson's Creek with his mom. That's so nice. And Poopies wants to know if I tried making the Squid Game cookie. Well, I will tell you, Dawson was also like my dude, but like Pacey was bad, so I kind of liked him a lot. But I liked his Hawaiian shirts and the openness, and him having sex with teachers. I thought that was like great. I've seen Dawson's Creek. Yeah, exactly. Steve says he's watched it like 3 times in its entirety. I have watched it so many goddamn times. I love Dawson's Creek. I don't want to wait for my life to be over either because we bought the series and Rob and I watched it like over and over and over again. We couldn't stop watching Dawson's Creek. And just like when Jen dies, I just wanna go too. I just wanna throw myself into the fucking grave with her because it's so sad. God damn it, high school was hard. God damn. Everyone's crying. But no, those are actually, like, actual tears. No, those aren't happy tears. Now have I tried making the Squid Game cookie? No, but I know how to do it. Like, it's basically, like, melted sugar. And you try to, like you put it I was gonna put it on my Cuisinart stove, like, I have one of those Cuisinart presses, but you can also make it into, like, a griddler. So I was gonna try to just burn some sugar on those, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my kids will want these. How am I gonna calculate the carbs into this fucking sugar?" Like, I can't do this, but, like, I've seen a lot of people try to do it on the internet, and it's been really, really gooey, and they've really, like, effed up making the cookies. Like, they're really screwed up, but I've seen a lot of people try to do it. I have not been brave enough to burn that amount of sugar in my kitchen yet because I think it'll stink, but I'm gonna try. I wanna try. So, when I missed out on metal, what I did notice was a lot of these bands from the '60s when I missed on emo, not metal. I stepped out of metal and missed out on emo rather, is what I noticed with these bands from the '60s, a lot of them were really, like, into drugs, and there was a lot more darkness going on. Oh, it was a Dawson's Creek split. Oh, no. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. My condolences about Jen. Don't jump into any graves. But what I will tell you that I learned about '60s bands were that a lot of them had darker history than I was I was used to, and I got into the Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix and stuff that I'd already been kind of like listening to with my dad and jamming to on guitar. And I love to like listen to bands like Fish, and I go to jam band kind of concerts like that and smoke pot with all my jam band friends. But I got really into the Beach Boys and their like mid '60s stuff after like the Cars and the Surf and the Girls and the Sun and all that stuff. All the stuff that Brian Wilson, excuse me, thank you, Coca Cola, had been doing drug experimentation, kind of playing with this wall of sound, building the wall of sound, production values, and dinking around with like different instruments and theremins and ebos and different organs and Hammonds and Rolands and different things like that. I started getting really obsessed with different musical instruments and different sounds and started tearing away layers of this band that I thought like the Beach Boys was such a wholesome American band, and then I found out there was, like, layers, like, of an onion. There was, like, abuse from Brian Wilson's father. There was, like, a lot of, like, physical abuse in the band, like, especially with the kids in the band being brothers. There was, family drama. There was cheating. There were, people losing their virginity on tour to prostitutes. I mean, if you can't pay for sex, I mean, what can you pay for crying out loud? But I mean, there are so many other things, like family drama within kinda stuff. You wanna hear you wanna hear my concept album? Oh, I have so many concepts. It would be weird, but, like, the drugs thing, it's like it changed everything with, like, the Beach Boys. They went from, like, a really bubblegummy sound to kinda being inside Brian Wilson's mind and what was kinda going on there, being unmedicated and having issues with mental health, and there wasn't a lot of, like, awareness to mental health then at all, and, like, now we're trying all kinds of different things to raise awareness for mental health. Even, like, Chelsea Handler, she does a Chelsea Says and a Chelsea Does episode where she does ayahuasca, and recently I had watched a Netflix special, and it was called The Last Shaman, I believe, and it was about a gentleman who was, like, really, really depressed, and he was really, really hooked on drugs, and opioid drugs, and this was his last kinda thing. Ooh, yes. Rowan's saying that later Brian Wilson did meet Charles Manson. That's true, he met Charles Manson through Dennis Wilson, his brother, who would kind of when Brian Wilson was going through his mental sort of breakdown, his brother Dennis would come to his house with cheeseburgers and just try to force him to write because he wasn't writing anything for the Beach Boys. He was not being creative at all. He just couldn't. His mind was so clouded by all the drugs and kind of fuckery that was going on. He just kind of stopped. So Dennis would reward him with cheeseburgers, but at that time Dennis had kind of met up with these wayward hippies that ended up being the Manson family and ended up staying at his fucking house. And they kind of occupied it a bit. And he had them staying at his house. And Charles Manson ended up contributing some lyrics to a song called Never Learn Not to Love on one of the Beach Boys albums. You can actually find it. I think I'll post it on my Instagram. And not that I want to glorify Charles Manson, but it happened. It's real. The Beach Boys have a huge connection to Charles Manson. And if the some of them had been home like the night of the murders, I think Dennis Wilson probably would have been on the receiving end of those murders too. And it brings me back to ayahuasca and Chelsea Handler doing ayahuasca with Jenny Molin, with Jason Biggs's wife, the guy who put his finger in the American apple pie, who went to feel the warm apple pie. But when they did this ayahuasca, like people were trying to do ayahuasca in South America right now to help their mental health, get rid of addictions, get rid of the demons. It's supposed to be a very powerful herb that you can take in a tea. All kinds of different shamans and would-be shamans and fakes, unfortunately, sell it and try to sell you all kinds of different ayahuasca trips. So this young gentleman was searching just for some sobriety, I think, and some peace of mind to get through. And he ended up traveling to South America to try this ayahuasca. And the Netflix documentary is actually amazing. But then it made me think of this episode that I saw of like Chelsea does ayahuasca. I've seen her do a lot of things. Like I've seen her do Ambien and tape herself and not remember anything and do I think she did Adderall and she felt really focused. She was like an episode of Desperate Housewives or something. All she wanted to do was clean. No, but she got ripped on ayahuasca in South America with Jenny Molin, who was Jason Biggs's wife, and they have a couple of kids together. But what I was so surprised was with it, she got ripped on as a mom for doing ayahuasca on this TV show, but, like, if you actually watched it, she was, like, sitting there crying, having all these, like, aha, like, Oprah moments, like, with how much she loved her kids and shit. So it was not exactly, like, a horrible experience for her, and I just felt bad for her just being ripped as a mom because I know it's like to be ripped as a parent and have your parenting torn apart. It sucks ass. So it's not very, much fun. You feel you're getting, screwed and whatever. Oh my God. This has been a week. I will tell you. Yeah, I won't I forget to tell you not I will never not to tell you not to click the subscribe button. So please click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. This has been a hell of a week. I have had one hell of a week. I wanted to talk to you about the Squid Game, but I can wait for a minute because I got my own version of the Squid Game. It's going to come from Poland. This week was the most f up week for me ever. I don't go out a lot. I don't get out a lot. You know me. I'm a bit of a homebody. I'm working at home. I'm working from home. We protect people at home that don't have the immune systems that we have. So I have to go to the pharmacy this week. And we are still under a mask mandate where we are in Ontario. I'm all for masks, whatever. I'm double vaxxed. Everybody knows my opinion about that shit. And I don't need to go into further detail, but you'll hear about it. So I had to go into our regular pharmacy and get insulin for our eldest who has diabetes. As if you're a listener, you know this. And I had to go get some medication for myself too. One of them is something that can make you sleepy when you drive, so they need to see your driver's license. So if Tanya down on this street is selling a whole bunch of sleeping medication, then we'll know. Oh yeah, Rowan, you can absolutely plug your podcast on here. Rowan's actually doing a new podcast. He's getting a podcast out. You want to put something in the comments all about it and let everybody know about it? I had to hang out at the pharmacy for 2 seconds. So I go to get the insulin. It's fine. There's a gentleman behind the counter and he's wearing his mask, but he's like wearing it here. So I'm like, I've like backed way the fuck up. I'm wearing like an N95. It's like a black ninja mask. My whole face is covered. I look like Bane in Gotham City. My glasses are like tight to my face. I look crazy. I'm wearing gloves because I don't want to touch my fucking face. Like, god damn it. I don't want to touch my fucking face. Just give me my fucking shit and leave me alone. So it's paid for, whatever. The pharmacist knows me, whatever. But this kid is just not being cool. I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna help Rowan with his podcast. So Rowan's got a new podcast called The Mighty Creedon and the Aardvark do Red Dwarf right here on YouTube. So they're gonna do a podcast right here on YouTube. You can probably subscribe to it on here if you like Red Dwarf. That's something I grew up watching. Like my dad is British, so and he grew up in England and came over here when he was 6. And so I grew up watching a lot of Red Dwarf, and I had friends whose parents loved Red Dwarf growing up as a kid. So definitely that is something you would definitely want to tune into, especially anyone from Australia or anyone in that end of the world that will definitely appreciate Red Dwarf. But I think wherever you are, you would probably be able to appreciate Red Dwarf and that kind of humor. It's good. Supposedly the winner of Squid Games and the old man is his father. I don't know. Is it? Is it? Have you seen the end of Squid Games, my friend? I don't know. I'm not going to give away the end of for Squid Games, but what I am going to give away is some information about this pharmacy. So I got some stuff from the doctor that can make you sleepy. So you don't take it in the daytime, you take it at night. And they say, I want your driver's license so we can just write it down. So I'm like, cool. So buddy at the pharmacy says to me, "Can you take off your mask, please?" I'm thinking like, "You must be new here." I'm like, "In a pandemic, you want me to take off my mask in a pharmacy?" Like, and your nose is hanging out of your mask too, and you're like sitting behind the counter and laughing at me. Okay, cool. I'm like, "No, I can't take off my mask." He's like, "You need to take off your mask. I need to see your face." I'm like, "You can see my face. Here's my ID. I have winged eyeliner. I'm pretty hard to miss. My ID looks pretty much like my eyes, just with the Bane mask on." I'm like, "Here you go. Here's my ID." So I put my hand over my face and my ID, and I look the same. I'm like, "I'm not taking off my mask." I'm like, "That's ridiculous." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because we're under a mask mandate." And I'm like, "I just won't take off my mask." So I look up the pharmacist and he knows me. So I'm just like, "Is this cool?" And he's like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "Let her go." And so I go and this guy is still bitching at me about my mask. "Oh, you think you're effing smarter than everybody else." I'm like, "Oh god." And he's like yelling at me about my mask and he still wants me to take my mask off. I'm like, "Okay, so at this point he's already written my driver's license stuff down." So if I finally I've had it. I'm like, "You know what? I'll take off my mask when you take off your fucking pants and your fucking underwear, okay? I will That's when I'll take them off in the middle of a pharmacy." And everybody kind of had a look. 2 minutes, I got out of that pharmacy, like, within 2 minutes, like, my phone was ringing, and I'm like, "Who the hell is this?" It's a pharmacist, apologizing profusely. He's going to fire this young gentleman for cussing me out at the counter. I don't know what you're doing behind the counter at the pharmacy, like, laughing about a pandemic, laughing about masks. I was talking about this today earlier to someone, and I found it funny that the same people that at the beginning of the pandemic, when all their shops and all their businesses were kind of closing down, they were sewing masks like a motherfucker and being like, "Oh, please, please buy my masks. I'm trying to do anything to keep my business going." And now these are the people who hate masks and they're encouraging anti-mask rallies and you to have your kids not wear masks in school because they're going to have herd immunity even though they're not vaccinated. I don't want to get too much into that, but I think it's kind of getting crazy. We had an anti-mask rally here actually in our city today, and it makes me feel pretty ashamed to live here. It's not cool. I don't know. If you want to be cool, I heard some people got assaulted for like wearing masks. If you want to be cool, like be silent. Without your masks on, I have a newsflash for you. Everybody can see your face. Like the great thing about masks is you have a mask on your face. You're like a super ninja. You're like a superhero. You look really cool. You're not gonna get like taped on all fronts for everyone to see your face. So that kind of sucks because I mean sometimes your face is just seen everywhere. I know my face is goddamn seen everywhere. I've been in bands and all kinds of stuff all over the place. I have been in one band there. This is Rowan says there was a city there too. There was this one in your city too, and they're not in lockdown. Wow. Hmm. Wow. And you're not well, we're not in lockdown like currently, but we're still, like, in a mask mandate because I don't think enough people are vaccinated is what's going on right now, and, I mean, obviously, we have kids that can't get vaccinated either, so masks, I don't really see them going away probably anytime soon. We also have, like, a lot of vaccine mandates. I don't know what's going on in, like, 100% of the rest of the world. We have, like, a lot of vaccine mandates here as well, and those are making people, like, a lot really angry, and it just a lot of anger is, like, erupting out of, I think, fear and stuff, and, like, before it was, like, more Melbourne and Sydney are in lockdown. Yeah, I heard that. I didn't know that, Melbourne was, but I knew that Sydney was in lockdown. Oh, again. Holy smokers. I don't know what's gonna happen here, so who knows? I really don't know. Like, judging by that kid, the pharmacy the other day, he's gonna get us in lockdown pretty soon. Oh my god. I will tell you one time when I tried to lock it down, I was locking it down by trying to quit a band. I was in a band, a few bands after Kitty, and I'm gonna call this story being called Nickel and Dimed to Death. So I was in a band after Kitty, and I was having a great time in this band. It was it was awesome. It was like my high school after high school after high school band. I wasn't in high school. I was in my 20s, like, when I was in this band. And we're like a stoner rock band. We had fun. All we did was party. It was before kids and marriage and all those things and all those serious things that make you too bitter. And we played a great show. We had great times. We used all different kinds of names and stuff. And one day I just kind of got sick of being in the band. A few members had kind of changed. Our drummer for at the time was not like these were the original drummer of the band. Our drummer was like getting drunk and like falling down behind the drums and just like not coming to band practices and was just like counterproductive. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna quit this band. So at the time, we had like a band fund because we'd been like playing shows. We didn't have a ton of money in it, but split between four like women, each get a couple $100. Well, I will tell you, do I have any CDs from that band for sale? No, but you can go on YouTube actually for free, and you can find the Alcoholies, and you can look up the Alcoholies. They're on Facebook too, and you can find all their songs on there for free. And you just, I don't know if you can make burn CDs anymore these days. I don't know. I don't know what I should be endorsing, but no, I don't have any of them for sale. We used to sell them at live shows, but I remember quitting the band. This was way after Mercedes joined because this is way after I like rejoined the band. But I had quit the band because there was just not any drummers that were just cutting it for me at the time. And so I quit. And my singer at the time, she was like my best bud, and I must have like really personally offended her and hurt her. So she split up the band fund, but for some reason she decided to give me all of mine in change. And it was like, "You fucking bitch, you're gonna leave me with all these other bitches? Fine, you're gonna get your payout and it's gonna be all in nickels and dimes, bitch." I got like loonies, toonies, quarters, nickels and dimes. I got my whole payout. I got no paper money at all. The whole thing was like just like a bag of money. And it was like 200 and some odd dollars, all in change. Like, I will give her a C for class because that was fucking hilarious. Like, that is something that I would have done. But oh my God. Shit, it was funny. Like, and she was so mad at me for leaving the band. And then, of course, I got back into the band again because Mercedes was like, "Hey, I'm gonna drum for this band." And then when I quit the first time, I was playing guitar, and she's like, "They need a bass player. Would you play bass?" And I'm like, If you play drums, I will play bass." So that was like Mercedes and I kind of doing the rhythm section again. She's always kind of the drums to my bass. And we rejoined the band, the Alcoholics, or I rejoined and she joined for the first time and played in that band together. So you can catch it on YouTube. There's live shows, there are a bunch of things. We had a bunch of fun lineups, bunch of fun songs, kind of like I say, like a big stoner rock kind of punk band, all girls. We had a really fun time and it's a very funny story of being kind of nickel and dimed out of a band. It was good. People have asked me, I had some comments last week about my reactions to metal videos, and someone said to me, "I bet you that you would have great reactions to metal videos, and there would be an audience for people reacting to metal videos." One of my followers on TikTok asked me if I'd ever heard of a challenge called Into the Hellfire Challenge. I'd never heard of it before, ever, ever, ever. So I like to do those like blind reaction things where you just blind react to something, and I don't wanna James is like, "Damn," and he's laughing his ass off because I didn't know what it was, right? So someone just asked me to blind react to it. So I'm like, "Okay, I'll do this." So I sat on the stairs and I just pressed record on my phone. Oh my god. There's a video some Rowan says there's a video somewhere of a guy paying for a parking fine and change. Oh my god. I would pay for a parking fine and change if someone ever gave me a parking fine. So I turn on Into the Hellfire Challenge and it literally starts as like a metal song and I'm just kinda, like, bobbing my head a little bit, and then it's, like, the sound of, like, pigs squealing, like, incessantly, absolutely, like, dying pigs, and I just couldn't help I couldn't help it. I cracked up, like, mid-song, and it was no disrespect to the band, because like, I'm like, "I just can't believe that this is a human with this voice." Like, I've never heard I've heard some freaking amazing metal artists scream, but I couldn't believe that this was human. And like, you'd probably have to like pay me money to like make me believe that that was not actually some kind of barnyard creature. But you know what? It's actually pretty fun. We Are Pigs is a great band. Oh, I love We Are Pigs. We Are Pigs is probably one of the best bands I've heard in like the longest time because they are just they're releasing so many singles instead of full albums, and I really like that each single is a different sort of like concept. I find like they're like little like I find bands more releasing more little pocket symphonies and pocket orchestras and little like singles instead of like EPs or LPs and stuff like that. And I'm really like digging this like these like micro releases. They're fun. Like they're really fun. And then you get the merch, you get a video. It's coming at you a little bit faster and you just get a little bit more you get like a little bit spit out like here and there, but in the end, I think it become kind of becomes more and it's more special. There's like We Are Pigs is doing so many cool collabs right now. Like there's so many cool collaborations and I got the chance to hear like so much of it and it's so impressive. And SJ Jones, I can't say enough good things about that girl. She's just everything she touches turns to 24 karat gold. It's just magic. Yeah, yeah, Beard Metal Chef's got it. We Are Pigs is awesome. SJ is so cool. Super cool girl. I know you've interviewed her before. You guys have had chats and she is just she's fantastic. She does everything. Like literally fucking everything. And I'm so impressed by her, like her courage to like never back down, especially like in the recording process and the creative process. She's like, no, I want to keep it this way. And if you don't like it that way, then lump it. We need more strong people, not just strong women that way. We need more strong people that are gonna just stand up and stand up for themselves and tell them the way it is. Tell them how you like it and keep it that way. And Rowan said he loved her cover of Duality. Yeah, it's so good. I saw that. I checked that out on her Instagram, and she's so talented. She's so multifaceted. She can play everything. She can sing. She's got a great like range. She can sing like a lot of different, like in a lot of different styles. Yeah, and Brian like Head Welch from Korn is amazing. He's a great, great artist. And them to see them like get together and collaborate is amazing, especially in all the stuff they've done with like Gray Days and Chester Bennington has been a really cool project. A really like a gut wrenching project. Definitely an emotional project, but really good. Poopies wants to know if just checked out the Alcoholics, Lock, Stock, Lola, and Nobody's Perfect, and we'll definitely check out the rest of the songs. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy them. We had fun recording those. We recorded those songs up in Goderich with at Beach Road Studios with our good friend Siegfried Meyer. We had the best time recording that album, I will tell you. We had so much fun. I just wondered why he's saying Rowan just wondered why he's saying like Jonathan Davis. I don't know why he's saying like Jonathan Davis. I have no idea. I didn't like for me I didn't notice it. I just kind of heard him singing. Or maybe they all kind of sing the same, they hung around. Oh yeah. I agree with yeah, definitely Bearded Metal Chef. SJ and Morgan, their collab together was amazing. Moot. So good, and I love how, like, the duality of them filming it in 2 different places. Like, Morgan was, like, here, like, in the snow in, like, a cemetery, and SJ is, like, out in the middle of the desert in, like, magic hour, and it's just beautiful, you know what I mean? It just the duality of their voices together. The song just seemed to flow and seemed to really work, and I really, 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 really liked it. Mm, I think I'm gonna definitely do more collabs and blind reactions to this metal stuff because metal is not created like it was when I was growing up. It's not like the new metal and the stuff that I listen to. It's not even like the old metal that I listen to. It's like I listen to like Motley Crue and like Kiss and Poison and Guns N' Roses and bands like that. And I don't I some of this metal these days I don't know it. I don't understand it. Someone will be like, "Have you listened to this band?" And I'll listen to them and they're good. It's just I've not have heard of them yet and I'm kind of a hippie when it comes to music, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think my high school experience probably would have been better if I got along better with my peers other than my, like, direct group, better that I got along with my teachers, like, I just jived better with older people. I didn't jive well with people my age, except with, like, the, like, immediate group of people that I hung out with and, like, the people that went to, like, Robin's Donuts in Byron, which, I mean, I live close to now. Robin's Donuts in Byron was, like, a staple for the city of London and all the kids who lived down here. We had a Byron pizza, which we still have. We have a Byron video. There was like a Max Milk, and there was a Robin's Donuts, and they had Robin's eggs, which were like little tiny donuts. They had this thing called a Bismarck, which is like this is something that I used to get all the time for like drunk people that would come to Robin's Donuts that were puking, and we try to soak up all their drunkenness with the Bismarck, and that boat would never soak up the drunkenness. It would just cause more puking. Rowan says his mom lived with a hippie, but claims that she was not one herself. I don't know. I'm gonna say that you are sometimes who you hang with, and sometimes like the hippiness can like rub off. I know my granola-ness rubs off on like my partner sometimes. Like I'll just be like, I'm having like just mushrooms and vegan stuff for dinner. He'll be like, oh, he even said to the kids the other day, he's like, Dad's having a lot less meat lately, and lately I don't mind. I'm like, hmm. So, I mean, sometimes you are who you hang with and you are who you live with. It happens. Speaking of Rob, he asked me questions for this live stream like today, and he wanted to know best fighting stories. Like I'm a Buddhist, so like I don't really fight, but he wanted to know like about one of the best fighting stories like I've ever had or like experienced or been with. So like I'm like a fighting story like when you're on the schoolyard, like my dad's better than your dad, and he can totally blast your dad's head off because he's got a bazooka and fuck your dad. Your dad sucks. You know, I'm like, no, not one of those stories. And Rowan was raised a vegetarian. Not a horrible way to be raised. I was raised a total like carnivore, and now it is it is such a change for me to be completely vegan. It's a good change. I feel good. I'm wearing my hunt mushrooms shirt tonight. I know some people thought that was a C over there on the other side the other day, and I was like, no, this is hunt mushrooms with a H. That is definitely an H, not a C. Rob wanted to know about one of my best fighting stories, so I do have one. I was one of my girlfriends was dating one of my guy friends, and I did not want them to date because I'm like, she is gonna get fucked over because he is just an asshole. And so this ends. Hello, Tanya. My wife is a granola listening person. New metal goes over super well in the car. I bet it does. She wants you to put on the Grateful Dead. You want to you want to listen to anything but, and you can't agree on anything in the car. You get into fights. It happens. My best granola story, my best fighting story is has to do with no granola people because they weren't fighting. One of my girlfriends was dating one of my guy friends, and like I say, I didn't want them to date because I'm like, "Ooh, this is, like, gonna be a bad match. I can just see that this is just I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Someone's gonna drown someone in a fucking pool, Phil Collins. This is not gonna be good." So, I remember they were dating. And I was like, fuck, this is not going to be good. So they've been dating for a few weeks, and he's like telling me, like, oh my gosh, Tanya, I am so in love with this girl. I want to marry her. He's telling me all his intentions with her and all these things. I'm just like, I don't know about that. So she likes him a lot, and she's like, I think I'm gonna bring him to meet my parents. I'm like, oh, that's that's big shit. You're gonna bring him over to meet the rents, huh? Meet the folks. So she goes, and he's supposed to come over to her parents' house at like 7 o'clock or something for dinner. So like at like a later time. So he's got like all day to get ready. So if he's nervous, whatever. So this motherfucker decides to go to the Peelers. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the strip club in the middle of the afternoon at like noon when they open, and have some beers and get some lap dances, which she was fine with. This girl was totally fine with. She's like, "Go ahead, go get your lap dances, go to the strip club, whatever. Just please be at my parents and don't be sauced, right? By 7 o'clock." So it's like 6:30. You think maybe your like new boyfriend who's gonna meet your parents like might be a little bit early. He calls her, he's like, "I'm gonna be like late. I'm at the strip club and I'm going to be late." And she's just like, "Oh, that's not gonna be good. Oh yeah, the peelers." Well, they're peeling their clothes off. That's what it is, Rowan. We call it the peel. Well, I call it the peelers. I also call it the ballet. I will say they're just off to the ballet. I try to make it sound classé because they're gonna do a plie and rip a tune out of your teeth with JJ. Bearded metal shop guest strip joint. Yep, well, they're peeling their clothes off, right? Like, I've seen a lot of strip clubs, like, in my life, like, before I had kids, before I had boyfriends, but mostly, like, in my teen years, and I was, like, way too young to go in them. I saw some strip clubs. They made me feel very embarrassed and very self-conscious, but, like, this guy decided to go to the strip club, and he decided makes you think of banana makes Rowan think of banana peels. This guy should have slipped on a banana peel because instead he went to the strip club and he bypassed going to her parents' house. So that was it. They were done. He totally insulted her. She was like, fuck this, we're breaking up. So a few weeks later, after they broke up, we all ended up at a show together at a bar here in town. And we'd all had quite a bit to drink. It was back in the day when we drank. I haven't had a drop of alcohol in, oh goddamn, forever. And oh, we'd be putting on a little extra sauce. Slow clap, and this is not a slow clap or a slow slap. We ran into this guy and he was just antagonizing the shit out of my friend. He was being an asshole to her. Like, fuck you, doing those things, like saying shit under his breath. She's a girl who kind of keep her cool for like enough time. But if someone's just being totally outright shitty to you, she walked over to him. She was like, "Listen, like, what's going on? Like, you were a shitty boyfriend to me. I didn't really like that. Like, that wasn't cool and everything." And he kind of slagged her off and like was kind of like ho 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 to his friends, kind of like Danny Zuko like on Grease when like Sandy approaches him. Well, instead of Sandy being like Danny and him being like Sandy, oh, it's cool, baby. You know what's happening, rocking and rolling and whatnot. Well, she hauled off and she punched him in the fucking face so hard. He went flying into the fucking fence, hit the back of it, and like that is your fucking shitty boyfriend karma. This girl drove your ass, like pile drove your ass across a bar. It was literally like the best fight I've ever seen. Yes, it was one sided, but he was shooting his mouth off so hard. He screwed her over so bad when they broke up. And then he still kind of didn't acknowledge what he did. I'm like, you went to the strip clubs and then missed dinner with her parents and then like just like got drunk and didn't care. That's not cool. And then you made fun of her in public in front of her friends. So you got punched in the face. So he got kicked out of the bar that we're in. We ended up staying. It was a good story and it was a good fight. It was great. The most of the good fights that I've seen in my life have been like women like scrapping and getting crazy and going at it. Like really crazy, like drunk college girls like downtown. Like when I used to go downtown when I was in my 20s to play in a band, I'd see drunk college girls like just going at it all the time. They'd like take their shoes off in the middle of the street and they'd be getting like toe up from the flow up. They were getting crazy. like 10 cups of crazy with like a side of cuckoo chew. She peeled his face off. Yeah, she sure did peel his fucking face off. It was it was like a night that I wish I would have had on videotape because I just keep replaying it and replaying it in my mind, and it never gets less funny because she just kicked his ass. It was great. And like usually I wouldn't condone or endorse fighting, but this guy was just such a dick. Like I'm the kind of person, and like Rob laughs at me about this, that I'm the kind of person that I'm usually so polite that I will call back wrong numbers that call my phone. So I just have a cell phone. I don't like have like a landline anymore. But if someone calls my cell phone and they call me and it's a wrong number, I'll call them back and I'll say, "Hi there. I'm really sorry to call you at this hour or whenever it is. But did you call my phone?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That was a mistake." So over in Canada, we're known for being very like polite. And Canadians are known for being polite and saying a lot of please and thank yous and just being polite. So I'll call them and usually we get into like a conversation or I'll apologize for calling them. They'll apologize for calling me and then it'll always end with, "Well, you have a nice night. Oh, you have a nice night too. Okay, well take care. Happy, Merry Christmas," or whatever the holiday is. It always ends up really funny. And Rob and I always kind of like have a good giggle about it. And I like being that friendly to people that I don't know. I think it's fun. Oh my gosh. In Adelaide, Rowan says they have those kind of fights and they call those kind of fights 4 a.m. in Hindley Street. I'm guessing Hindley Street is like somewhere where you don't want to go because it sounds like you might get like shanked. It sounds like the corner of shoot and stab on the way to going to Canada's Wonderland. One time we had to go to Canada's Wonderland and I had like stopped for gas in a really shady area and I didn't want to get out of the car because I didn't know it was not a good area. And I didn't know there was a lot of crime there. I didn't know, there was a lot of like pronounced Hindley. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I pronounced it wrong. I stand or I sit, I guess corrected, I suppose. This place was a high crime area, and I didn't wanna stop and get gas, so I made, like, the men that were with us go out and get gas because every year back in the day, I used to go to Canada's Wonderland to go to the Halloween haunt. If you're in Canada, it's fun to go to. I don't know what the masking regulations are like. I think you can go now as long as you have a mask and it's outside and everything and you're fully vaxxed. It's fun. So we used to go every year, but I had gone to this gas station and it was literally on the corner of shoot and stab. I was so scared. I did not want to get out of the fucking car. So I'm just like, pay at the pump, don't go inside. And then one of my friends is like, I have to pee. I'm like, do you want to die today? And they're like, well, like, I don't know. I'm like, don't go in there. Like, why can't we just like go die at this like fun house and do something like that? No, they wanted to go there and they want so like we waited like 10 minutes for them to come out. And like I literally wanted to drive away. They came out unscathed, they were alive. But it was a very scary time. And speaking of very scary times, I thought about long and hard about what would happen if the Squid Game happened, but it happened in Poland. Like, what would the challenges be? Like red light, green light? What would what but like that was like one of the first games on Squid Game. Red light, green light, what would you do? What would you do in Poland? It would be like to see how many mushrooms you could pick before the doll could turn around. Or would they like make you eat blindfolded mushrooms to see if they poisoned you and gave you mushroom toxicity? Like, what would they do? I got a list the other day about being Polish. I'm gonna put it up on the screen for you. It's fucking hilarious. It literally is like my life. Other than the religious stuff, I will read it to you and most of this stuff like makes so much sense to me. I don't know how many of you are Polish, grew up with Polish people, know Polish people, but this is a Polish person's life. The first one does not pertain to me at all, so I'm literally going to skip it because it's about church. Two, your knowledge of the Polish language is called O to be Polish. Your knowledge of the Polish language is limited to naughty words like dupa, gono, kurwa, and etc. Names for food like pierogi, kapuska, etc. And drinking toast like nastrovia. So most people who like think they know Polish know these things. Kurwa is just like a whore, it's a slut. Like dupa is like your ass. It's not saying butt, it's saying ass. You call your grandma babcha or busha and your grandpa jija, and you know how to dance the polka, but you only do it at weddings after kicking back a few generous shots of vodka. I don't drink. I don't know if I just do it at weddings. I'd probably do it at home, like, for my kids. I would definitely do the polka. You know, one grandmother wears a babushka, which is, like, one of those, like, little cloth babushkas over her head that tie at the chin, and galoshes every day, and one grandma that wears a lot of jewelry and too much makeup. I am probably gonna be a combination between both of those grandmas when I grow up. When I get to be, like, babushka age and, like, old busha age. I called my grandma Oma because they actually immigrated from Po Po Poland to Germany, so we, like, adapted the German names with them. Um, you have oh, this is true. You have at least one uncle named Stan or Stash, and that's true. That's true for all Polish people I know. I know that most Polish people have, like, the name Marie or Mary somewhere in their name. Mine is, like, Marie, like Tanya Marie. I just show up everywhere looking like the bastard son of goddamn Lisa Loeb and Ice Cube. Your parents have at least one crucifix or religious picture mounted on their wall with palms tucked behind it. Even I, who am a Buddhist, have religious pictures on my wall. I had one of the Pope on my wall for the longest time, but then I lit it on fire. The end. No, you get your food blessed at Easter. No, I don't get my nothing gets blessed. Your family has a Vigilia meal on Christmas Eve, and how would you share Oplachki and kiss everyone. Well, like, that has not happened in years, but, like, Christmas Eve was, like, always huge in Polish families, gigantic. Like, we love Polish family time, and we gather around, and we have snacks, and we cook a lot, and we eat a lot, and we kiss each other, and we just love each other. Your dad has forced you to eat horseradish, claiming it will put hair on your chest, even if you're a female. And all my grandparents did this. We did like the mustard plasters when we got colds. You know all the words to Stolat and sing it at all birthday parties. Yeah, not to mention like weddings, funerals, all the Polish holidays, because even funerals are Polish holidays. You waited in line at a church or a bakery to buy paczki, which are Polish like filled donuts or pierogi. I waited in line at a bakery to buy these things. I've never waited in line at a church because I've always like made my own pierogi, but like you're gonna make some pasta, Rowan's gonna make some pasta. Your homemade pasta is always the best. I was actually like teaching Fallon how to make pierogies over the phone the other day. Not too long ago, and that like you can make pierogi out of anything. If you have some flour at home, you got some water, even if you don't have eggs or anything like that, if you're like vegan, you're not vegetarian, you can make pierogi out of anything. Just fill it with some potatoes and vegan cheese, regular cheese, fill it with bacon if you like bacon. What else you got if you're Polish? You got one relative at least who plays the accordion. And for me, that's me. I play the accordion. I'm everyone's favorite Polish drunken uncle. You have your idea of a healthy meal is kind of boiled pierogi, but then you fry them with butter and onions. You have them with a light beer and a filtered cigarette. That sounds like every one of my like old uncles when I was a kid. They like, but the cigarette has a filter on it. They're like not like homemade rollies. You have at least one bar in your house, and it's usually in the basement. That is always true for Polish people. We don't drink, so we don't hear. You collect prayer cards from funerals. I have a lot of them. I even once got a jacket from Goodwill from this probably weird dead old lady that had a prayer card in the pocket. It was Saint I don't know what, but it was Saint fucking horrifying. I found that in my pocket. You often visit cemeteries, light votive candles for dead relatives, and generally are unhealthily obsessed with spending a terrible amount of time just obsessing about death and the subject of death, thanatology, and everything surrounding death in the occult. I'm going to say that that is definitely true about Polish people. People often have trouble pronouncing your last name. Mine, if I wouldn't have, like my mom hadn't taken my dad's last name, would have been Radzikowski. So that people definitely like thought it was like Ratatouille, Ratatouille, Ratashewski. It was bad. And last but not least, Polish people, and still to this day, think that like a highball drink means that you're like high society or that you're high class. And this is more from people that have just come here from Poland, which I will call like kind of Euro trashy sometimes. I've been that way myself. I think it's the red hair. I don't know what it is. It's right out of a box. Some people have said, "I really like your red hair, Tanya," and I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna put it in my back pocket. But I will tell you, it comes straight out of the box. It's Garnier Fructis. I don't remember what the bitch looks like on the box. I will have to show you. I'll have to put her picture on Instagram and show you or put the number. I think it's like 705 or 710. But yeah, lots of things have happened this week. I hope the next week gets better. I hope no one wants to take off my mask. Rowan wants to know if he has my permission to use me talking about Red Dwarf podcast in episode 3 of his Red Dwarf podcast. And yes, of course, you have my permission to use me talking about the Red Dwarf podcast in your episode 3 of Red Dwarf podcast. Because why not? I'm going to listen to it, and I hope you do too. If you want to listen to where I am, you always know where I am. I'm on Instagram at 21st Century Rocker Mom Podcast. I want to tell you that today on my hair, I didn't get to unbottle it last time, but I had this Franken Beardy from Iowa Beard Company, and it's awesome. I used it and flat ironed it into my hair today. It smells awesome. It's really very like the berries really, 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 really prevalent. The marshmallow's just there. The mahogany I can smell. The cereal smell is behind it. Like my kids love it. They're like, "What's in your hair?" I'm like, "It's beard oil. I stole it from your dad." Well, I can't say like I borrowed it from your dad because they're like, "Are you going to give it back?" I I I won't. I won't. Why I didn't give it back. But now my hair smells great, so I want to shout out to Iowa Beard Company for being fucking awesome with this Frankenbeardy. All their products have been solid lately. We've loved them around our house. So like I say, if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me on Twitter if you haven't had quite enough of my political bullshit. You can find me there at Tanny Candler if I haven't been blocked by you yet. You can find me on TikTok doing blind reactions to metal videos, probably medical videos too, pimple popping videos at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me here on YouTube at Tanny Candler channel, and you can always find me at the same place on all your favorite streaming platforms. Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the fun places. Find me there if I don't find you first. Otherwise, I will see you on the gram because y'all know that I'm a slave to the gram. It's been good seeing you this week. I will talk to y'all next week.